It is update time again. Okay, the Chevy. We're working on the front clip still. We got so many projects on the go. As you can see, I've managed to box all the frame here now. I've got it all boxed in. It's looking good. Of course, I hung all this stuff on for mock-up just to make sure everything's okay. Still working on the other side over there, as you can see back in this area. Still working up on that. Got the front half done though. So we're working on that. I'll finish that off hopefully today. Then we're going to bolt all these control arms back up and the spindles in, put the adjustable coilovers in. We're going to set her down on the ground, and I'm going to set a fender on. I just want to make sure everything's okay. I've gone through this thing several times. I keep measuring wheelbase. I keep taking the degree angle. This, obviously you can see I've got my my little angle finder right there. So I keep going over and over it several times just to make sure everything's going to be perfect there. So there's what's going on there. Now you remember the Model T. While we're working on that, Lisa's going to be at it today. She's going to be putting the running boards and the rear fenders on it. Maybe we'll get a little video action of her doing that. She loves doing that stuff. That's good because us boys just do not have the patience for it. And yes, that is a V6 in this car. So there we go. Turned out awesome. He didn't want a super fine job. This guy just said machine it. Again, don't block it by hand. Just machine it. Make it look good. But you know what? The car was pretty decent when it came in. So we'll go outside here, and of course there's those horrible fucking jet skis. But, whatever. They're here. Now you can see way back in this bay, we got the 36. We had the body all blasted. And now Bruce is doing the rough end of the bodywork and fitting all the panels while it's bolted down to the frame. Then we're going to be pulling this thing off the frame next week, and then he's going to be doing the final bodywork on it. Then we'll bolt it back on. Try the panels again, then we'll take it off the frame, then I will disassemble the frame and start having everything blasted and powder coated and seeing what parts need replacing on the frame. It sounds like a big routine to go through, but it's the only way you're going to know that everything's going to line up and fit properly, especially when you're going to paint a car like that in pieces. At the end of the day, I know it seems like it takes forever to keep taking it apart and putting it together and taking it apart and putting it together, but it's a lot better than painting a son of a bitch and then having to fuck around with everything. Excuse me. 59 Mercedes. These cars are becoming collectible. They're getting up there. This gentleman brought this in. Give me one sec, guys. Okay, we're back. See how that? Did you even see me edit that video? I had to sneeze. That's how quick it was. Anyway, this guy brought this in. Said it's running like a bag of shit. And it's overheating. Well, the rad was plugged solid. Just plugged up. Water wasn't even circulating through it. It did need a tune-up. The cap, the rotor, the points, and all that shit weren't the greatest, but we did a compression check on it. 2 cylinders aren't too good, and then you end up doing a leak down test, and you know for sure it's leaking past the ring. So it's time for a rebuild. So it'll run a little bit better when it leaves here, you know, because the guy is probably not going to want us to send the engine up for a rebuild right now. I don't know what his budget's like. It'll run a little bit better, but we've kind of pinpointed the problem, so at least he knows what's going on there. Cool little car, though. I did one of these. If you go back a long time ago, I did one of these for a gentleman out in Surrey. A 59 Mercedes. We did all the bodywork and painted it red. It was red on red, or this one's black on red. Whether that's factory or not, I don't know. The 41 cab over is still here. Chris is now onto the front. We found it's got a lower ball joint that needs replacing. It's got brake pads needs replacing. Of course, the rotors are down getting machined. And the back brakes are already done. We did the back brakes. We did air shocks in the back. We fixed up the airbags. We put a set of regular shocks under it too, because that's what he had under there. So the back end's done. Now we're into the front end with the same kind of shit going on there. Now someone had mentioned they wanted to see this 56 Ford Vic. Here it is. This is a lady. Lives out in Rosedale. Agassiz. Sorry, in Agassiz. She got hold of me and she said she wants to leave this car to her grandson. And she said, she had it painted not long ago. And, she just said she had it just sanded down and just a nice quick paint job. Nothing too fancy. She's had this car for 26 some odd years and she's driven it all the time except in the winter. So it had the 292 in it, this one actually. Whether that's the original engine for this one or not, whether it came with a 292 or 272, I didn't decode it, but it had a 292 in it. She wanted us to take the engine out and send it down and have it rebuilt. So we sent it into Fortin's. If you're ever out in Chilliwack, look up Fortin's Machine Shop. Norm. This guy builds tons of engines that are out at Mission Raceways. They know what they're doing. You pay a good buck for it, but you get good quality. So we sent the engine down to Norm, so Norm's got the engine. Excuse me, guys. We're going to clean up in here in the firewall area and the inner fenders. She doesn't want us to get too carried away, but just, you know, we'll do our oven treatment, our thing there. We'll degrease it with our oven treatment, leave it sit overnight, pressure wash it. We're going through the front end. Obviously, if you can see in here, I don't know if you can see carefully or not, control arm bushings are all chewed up. So we're replacing all the control arm bushings. They need replacing. The shocks need replacing. Wheel cylinders, brake hoses needed replacing. Idler arm has got some movement. The idler arm is way down in there. And yes, this is a factory power steering car. So we got to replace the idler arm on it for her. You can see we've got the driver's side all apart. Control arms. I've sent those down. They're getting the bushings pressed in right now. And of course there's some of our new parts waiting down there. There's the transmission from her car. The transmission, I believe she said she had some work done on it. I can't remember how many years ago, but we cleaned it up and gave it a coat of paint anyway. It may as well, it's out, right? Now, the coils. Look at what somebody did here. This is somebody heating the coils up to lower the car. Look at here, they've heated it up on one side. Look at this. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I've lowered several of my cars, and some of you have seen my 52 Chevy and you've seen my 55. What I've done is, rule of thumb, let me get in here and talk to you guys. Oops. What I've done, rule of thumb, is you can cut coils. Now, I'm not a big fan of heating coils up because when you heat them up, you take away the, you know, the metal. It gets weaker. It's not as strong. They sag down. I go through, but that's the way a lot of people do it because it was easier back then. They didn't want to take the coil out, so they do it that way. Some guys will even take a torch and they'll cut the coils in the car. I don't do that either. What I do is if the coils are good. Of course, nowadays you have to remember, you can buy lowered coils. We're talking back old school days, way back when. People couldn't afford it or they never really had that shit around. But what I do is if the coils are good, I take them out and I take one ring. An example is, theory is one ring that you cut off a coil is a drop of 2 inches. So if you take a half a ring, you're gonna lose an inch. I've tried taking more than a ring and a half. I tried that once and it doesn't work. When you take more than a ring and a half, the coil starts banging around in there when you hit some extreme bumps. So usually on my cars, I've dropped my 53 in the front. I put brand new coils in it. Now, of course, I could have bought the lowered ones, but get a kick out of this. The lowered coils, they wanted a couple $100 for. The stock coils, they wanted under $100 for. So I bought brand new stock coils and I cut a ring and a half out. It lowered it 3 inches and that car rides like a dream and it doesn't do any banging over bumps or nothing. My 55 Chev, that car when I bought it, 76,000 original miles. So, I mean, it was mint. So I just pulled the coils out and I took one ring out. It dropped to 2 inches. They ride awesome. I had a shoebox once. I tried to go 2 rings on it, and it was the biggest mistake of my life. I had to find another set of coils. Of course, I bought lowered coils for that. And that was a long time ago. But nowadays, like I say, they sell everything lowered. But back, if you're a guy on a budget and you're trying to save some money, I highly recommend, if you're mechanically inclined, don't heat the coils up. Don't heat them with a torch. Don't do that. Take the coil out. Take your grinder, cut it with a zip-off wheel. One ring is 2 inches, a ring and a half is 3 inches. I wouldn't go more than a ring and a half, but that's all up to you. Okay, so again, only my opinion, it's up to you guys. So that's what's going on here today at Old Time Garage. We thought you'd give you a quick little update. Thanks for subscribing. Remember, oldtimegarage.ca, check us out, look us up, and hey, it's always a good time at Old Time, and we will see you next time.